agencies, okay? If we reduce that number and we got together a little bit and everybody on the same policies and procedures, so it's complicated. But to answer your question, the constables, they do respond to calls for service, but mostly they're under contract to certain neighborhoods. Now, if they see something out when they're going to and from the neighborhoods, they stop and they back us up. But their responsibility is to those contract neighborhoods, and not every neighborhood can afford to pay a contract. So that's what a lot of people complain about, and it's not me complaining about it. I'm just sharing it with you. So, but we do work together. We do work together on a lot of things. If you see major events going on, the constables are going to be a part of it, and we work with them. But I wish we had less agencies and more kind of a bigger one or two forces, you know, and it don't have to come up under HPD, you know. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, and the metrics are only for.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The metrics and everything with my office is only for the police department, the Houston Police Department. So the sheriff's offices, the constables, they all have their own way of doing it. I've just been filtering the complaints their way, but I don't know. I don't have anything to do with their process and how it's handled.
Chief, you get to call them and recognize them now. Turning it
Okay, all right, okay.
Well, she stole my question, but the relationship between the constables and the police,
Yes.
okay? I'll tell you what, we here in my neighborhoods, and we live all the way out west till the county ended, and now we're in the Heights. Why do we have to pay for a constable when we pay for the Houston police? And that's, I mean, it's a tough
Right.
situation. And I think, though, which is the second part of my question, and I think that was great, we don't really know as a public, and maybe the rolling out of your agency or your organization, whatever you're calling yourself, maybe this is a really good time to do a really big PR push to talk about what you're doing for HPD, and we start to see, oh, we can also hold our constables responsible, and or maybe they're doing it, but if they are, they're hiding it. And believe me, they have some issues. They have some problems.
I think we all do, and one thing I want to be really, really careful of in this room, I don't want it to like Troy Finner, and I know that you're not saying, but I'm the chief, and
Yes, I understand.
my partnerships. To answer your question, I don't know how that's set up as far as payment, because I don't live in the neighborhoods, and I think it's your association that does the contracts with them, and I don't really have any working knowledge of that too much, because I've been, in my 31 years, I've been here with the Houston Police Department. But to answer your question, it seems like it may be a little bit unfair, but I'm gonna ask you to get out of your neighborhood right now and think about the people in Houston, other parts, and other parts of the county, because it's an underserved area. They don't have the money and the resources, but they still got to deal with even more crime. And that's when I'm saying that we have to look at it at a bigger scope. But I don't have the answers to some of it, but I can tell you we do work together. There is no quick fix, because you're not going to tell commissioner, this commissioner, that commissioner, hey, I'm going to take your constables. You're not going to tell that judge, I'm going to take, it's just set up different. So we just need to kind of talk, communicate,
Right.
and work some things out.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Chief, I was told that I have to use a microphone so the
Okay.
camera can pick up the.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay.
We have to do
Can
this
y'all
all
still
the
hear
time.
us on the camera? I hope so, yeah, think so, okay.
On the subject of community engagement,
Mhm.
I've been reading with interest about the Citizens Police Academy, and I would like for you to talk a little bit about that.
Hey, I love it. We got hit with COVID, and let me tell you, that's out of our community affairs division. So the Citizens Police Academy, it's like a 10 to 12 week program, and I think it's on Tuesday nights where you meet, and it's a couple of hours. So it's a bit of a commitment, but my God, you learn so much about the police department. You go to the SWAT, you go to the shooting range, you get to get in the car and see how we drive and pursuits and all that. So it is a great community builder, but more than anything, it's an educator, and people can see what training we go through. You go through some of that training. So if anybody's interested in that, we'll get you the link, but it's out of our Community Affairs Division, and you can sign up for that. And we love when people come in. I think we have a class going on right now, a little bit sleep deprived, but we normally run them every two a year. So we'll get that information. I'll get it to Larry, and he'll send it out, okay?
And it's a great program, I can attest to.
Larry, yeah, I thought you were one of our graduates, yeah, okay?
Hi, good afternoon.
How you doing?
Good, thank you. So I have two questions for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
To piggyback on those two ladies, I live in Houston, but it's as if I don't live in Houston. So we have the constable. I never understood, when does HPD respond, when does the constable respond, and when does the sheriff's department respond? Because the reason I bring this up is we've had two incidents outside my neighborhood just recently, and the sheriff was out there. So even though I have a Houston address, apparently HPD doesn't respond in my neighborhood. It's sometimes the constable and sometimes
Is it
the sheriff. So
unincorporated? Where, I don't know
I
exactly.
live in the North Shore area.
Okay,
I-10,
yeah.
1 mile up.
You
1 mile
you
up
are in the
south.
area where everybody is probably responding, but if it's actually outside, just outside of the city limits, the constables and Harris County will respond. But don't ever think during major emergency events, all of us work together, all of us. But through dispatch, that's determines that it is going to be the constables, Harris County, or is it going to be HPD? Okay, all of Houston locations that's actually in our city, it's going to tag us. Now, we do have, and what people don't realize, the constables and Harris County, we talk on the same radios, okay? So when something goes out and we got something major going on, everybody is hearing that. We got an active shooter somewhere or something major going on, a police chase that's going through different, we're talking to each other, so we're all working together. But if I get your address later on, we can get back with you and I'll tell you exactly where you lay as far as your
So
residence.
we had those two incidents on Uvalde, and they were both on the news, and that just happened outside
Yeah.
the neighborhood, and I noticed the sheriff was there, even
Yeah.
though we had a constable's office, and there was an HPD presence.
Right.
You know, all that.
One actually was in the Houston, and the other one was in Harris County. So it's confusing.
So I have a difficult question for you, Chief.
Okay.
And this is
I got some prayer here, so they pray for me.
This is more on a social justice issue.
Okay.
And my cohorts here, we're in an ethical leadership program, and so my cohorts here will attest this. I have to ask this.
Yes.
Defund the police.
Yep.
I know the tagline, has a negative connotation, but it's really about engaging the police in the community.
Yes.
So I just want to get your feedback on your thoughts, or explain to us what your thoughts are on defund the police. What does that mean? And what does it mean for Houston?
It depends on the person who is speaking. I can tell by you got a lot of intelligence, you got a lot of common sense, and you realize that, you know what, I'm not saying defunding the police. What I think you're saying is every attempt that we can make to divert, let's just take dealing with mental illness, somebody suffering from drug dependency or whatnot. Bring those individuals on your team, okay? And let them be a part of it. And we're doing that here in Houston. And part of the reform, the mayor took $25 million that could have went to the police department. What did he do? He put it on dealing with mental health illness and their response, sending clinicians and police officers to scenes, and sometimes sending only clinicians to a scene where there's not a potential of violence, having that branch in our dispatch where they're talking to somebody that's in crisis, and we don't even have to send a police officer out there. So I think that's what you're talking about. And also, don't waste money. Let me give you another analogy, okay? We're operating on probably about, independent of grants, our operational budget, overtime budget, is probably like $7 million, okay? That's unheard of, but that's how tight things are with the budget. You look at Chicago last year, $140 million, okay? So when you talk in terms of defunding, you have to know and get the history of what we've been defunded for year after year after year because they've been snatching, okay? So, and that's nothing against our mayor. I mean, when they talk to defunding, he stood up and our city council stood up and they say, we're gonna approve this budget without taking anything away because this is the fact of the matter in Houston. 20 years ago, we had 500 to 400 officers more than what we have today. But we increased our population by 500,000. You can't get past those statistics, but we have to work with and listen to our community and understand what are they saying and not jump to a conclusion, oh, it's just automatically negative. No, let's talk, okay?
And he's not gonna talk about it really, but I'll talk for him. So he is pushing so many community groups and community policing. The mayor's already gave the $25 million, that's all going towards mental health and domestic violence and things like that, those resources. But then I show up to a meeting and he's showing about all these non-lethal ways that they're trying to do things. The community affairs director and I have been working with the victim services division about how we can do more to help people. Like, you've been called out to the scene and there's this domestic violence case that's up 40%, but what are we doing with the person that this just happened to? They don't have any obligation after they arrest someone, they could just leave. But Chief Bender's not about that. He's like, what else do we need to do? How can we do it? Him and the mayor both are just, what can we do? Because the numbers are rising and we have to do something because what we've been doing isn't working. So they are actively pursuing grants at the police department. They're actively engaging with myself. And I'm like, hey, I mean, I'm an outsider. I'm trying to learn all this police lingo. But I'm like, whatever we've been doing, we've got to do something different. And so everyone is collectively working together, looking at what other agencies are doing and seeing about new innovative ways to do things, because it's really important, and the time is now. And that's what he echoes to all of his troops. He tells them, time is now because we don't know what tomorrow, you've got to push.